Hi, my name's Megan Key, and I'm a trans activist. My pronouns are she, her. And I'm chairing a panel today coming from Threads Radio in Tottenham Hale, bringing together a bunch of fabulous activists to talk about the impact of the pandemic on the queer community, some of the lessons that we've learned and some of the good stuff that's come out of it, and what's next for the scene as we come out of lockdown. So before we go into the questions, I'll ask everyone to introduce themselves, starting with our friend Dan Beaumont, who can't be here today, so is dialing in via Zoom. So Dan, introduce yourself.
Hello, my name's Dan Beaumont. My pronouns are he, him, and I am a co-founder of Dalston Superstore, which is where I am now. I'm not allowed to leave here. And there's a joke about ravens and the Tower of London. Oh, I ruined it.
Have you been locked
Also,
in?
I can't come to the cause because if I did, I definitely would stay there and the stage is sitting until June the 21st. So I'm really sorry that I can't be there, but I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone's got to say.
We're really grateful that you could make it. Thanks very much. So to my left, I'll introduce Reese. Hi, Reese.
Hi, I'm Reese. Reese's Pieces. Pronouns are he, him, they, them. And I am a cabaret producer and performer here in London town.
And give us a plug for your latest night.
Oh, gosh. Well, some of the nights that I've got my own baby Queefy, which I've been doing for 4 years. And then I'm part of many other things. Ducky, I host Bar Whatever, down at the RVT sometimes. I'm one of the lip syncers.
Fabulous.
You name it.
Right, we'll hear more about that in a bit. Sarah.
Hiya, I'm Sarah Moore. My pronouns are she, her. I, in my day job, do digital campaigns for politics and non-profit. And I also did a performance at Queefy one time, about 4 years ago now. Yeah, that's
Maybe
me.
we'll hear more about that as well. Jolliffe.
Hi, my name is Jola Seville. My pronouns are he, him. And I'm a community organizer, abolitionist, and I work for Black Trans Foundation that provides mental health care for Black trans people.
Last but not least, Babes.
That's me. Hi, I'm Joe Alloway. My pronouns are they, them. I've done a few things, been around, as most of you know. And I am the co-founder of We Exist, which is a trans-led community space initiative and trans healthcare fund.
Which has been doing a lot of great things this year in 2020, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. So thanks again, all of you, for coming, and let's just check in. How are we feeling on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being good, 0 being not great at all? I'd say I'm feeling pretty optimistic today. It's a good day, so I'm going to go for a 4. Yeah, how you feeling?
Yeah. 4, strong.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm going to match you on a 4 because it's a Monday and it's International Nap Day.
Oh.
I managed to squeeze in a nap after my Zooms. And also, yeah, it's a Monday. Last week was a heavy week. And, we're here doing something very positive on this Monday. So I'm going to go with a 4.5, in fact.
Oh.
Don't forget Dan.
Yeah, awesome. Sarah, how you feeling?
Do you know what? That's actually kind of put it in perspective for me. I've actually, over the past week, it's been horrendous. And
Okay.
I think over the past year, things have been really hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But today, do you know what? You're right. It's a Monday. It's a new week. We are here doing something cool. We've got some good things to talk about. So do you know what? I'm going to match you on a 4.5, love.
Brilliant. There's no pressure at all if you're having a bad day as well. That's okay too. So Jolly.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I think, as we've all said, it has been a really heavy time. And it's been quite heavy for quite a while. And no, I'm feeling energized. We've just had a new moon, so I'm ready. You know,
Awesome.
the energies are right.
Yeah, awesome.
Wind it in.
I just really enjoyed that. I reckon I'm a solid 4.
Yeah.
Feeling I guess I'm feeling a little bit optimistic as well. I was at the Sisters Uncut protest yesterday.
Yeah,
And to be honest, I'm feeling the revolutionary energies. I
brilliant.
feel like it's coming. Like,
Yeah.
let's fight for it. Let's go for it.
Yeah,
You
there's
know?
like a renewed passion and vigor
Yeah.
in society at the moment, I think.
Yeah.
And
It's beautiful.
Dan, how are you feeling? Because you know your businesses have gone through the mill the last year. So how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling okay today. I put myself at a 2.5, but since I've seen all of you, I think that's shot up to a 4. So I'm
Awesome.
cruising on 4 and maybe like 4.27 now, I think.
Oh yeah, let's see if we can get it up to a 5, even if it's just temporarily. Okay, so we're going to talk today about a few different subjects, and it's a free-flowing conversation. I've got a few questions to ask just to really shape the discussion, so we stick to time, because I think you probably guessed we all like to chat, right? So it could be here for some time. So really, first, I want to come to you, Dan, first. What has been the impact on queer businesses in London of multiple lockdowns, and particularly to queer nightlife economy, like Dawson Superstore, like Chapter 10, which you're a promoter of, and some of your colleagues who work in the Dalston area and further afield?
I mean, I think as queer people, we've always understood that our strength comes a lot of the time from physical togetherness and solidarity, and that's how we've been able to win rights and make progress by being together physically with our chosen family or with our comrades, really. So having not being able to do that, I think has felt very disempowering for a lot of people. Um, and I'm not saying that the queer scene in London is any kind of utopia by any means,
Sure.
but just our ability to be seen and to see each other is a really important part of how we draw strength. So I think for me, losing that has felt very disempowering.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us have tried to seek other ways to have that togetherness, and some of them have been really successful. And also, it should also be noted that there's been uh, a lot of solutions to that togetherness that have brought people who've been previously shut out of queer spaces into the
Yeah.
conversation. I think that's a really, really important development. Um, but yeah, I think it's been very hard as it has for a lot of people.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and I just wondered, do you, being a business owner and you've been in Superstore for coming up to your 12th birthday, I think it is this year, which is a fantastic achievement. I just wondered, do any of the other businesses on the queer scene, do you check in with each other? Do you have a relationship? Have you got mates in there? Because it must be pretty, like you say, it's pretty tough trying to sustain a business through all of this hardship.
Yeah, I mean, I think the us and the Glory have a sisterly, an ugly sisterly relationship, and I think we communicate a lot because I think we share a lot of very sort of similar visions, and there are a lot of the other venues do sort of there's an LGBTQ forum that's convened by the GLA,
Uh-huh.
that everyone sits on. But I kind of I feel I mostly feel an affinity for the Glory. Really, I think we're kind of two parts of the same coin in this part of town.
Yeah, and for people listening in who might not be in London or from London, or people listening further afield, really we're all situated on the East London queer scene, and some people will know there's a South London scene as well, particularly. And the Glory and Dalston Superstore are two of the key venues in the East London scene, and they're what, about half a mile away from each other, Dan?
Yeah,
Yeah,
about
yeah.
23-minute drunken stumble.
So yes, that gives a bit of context for people. So thanks for that, Dan. And Joe, Reese, you both part of the nightlife economy. You've both got jobs or had jobs in the economy, and maybe you could just tell us. I'll come to you first, Joe. What's your involvement been? Whether it's working at Superstore, what kind of jobs that you do. And what have you noticed the impact on the people that work in our community over the last 12 months, whether it's your dancers, DJs, promoters, etc.? So how's it been?
So I have been the door gal at Superstore for quite a while.
And a fabulous one.
Stop it. Well, you're probably the only one who says that. And I've done doors pretty much. A lot of venues in London, like the Glory. I was a regular doing the doors there, working behind the bar. Run a club night at Superstore as well called Them Fatale, which is a trans-led club night. And I think, to be honest, I think the biggest issue that people are saying is about money.
Yes.
There has been a drastic decrease in how much people get in their pocket over the past, because nightlife has essentially been, dead or turned off for the past year.
Yeah, 15 months, yeah.
Most performers, dancers, DJs that I know have, either they haven't had the opportunity to be furloughed, so most of them are on universal credit now. There isn't the opportunity to get back into work. So I think that's something that we all need to recognize and see how struggling those workers are, really.
Yeah, because it's fair to say that most people who work on the scene, whether it's in Birmingham, Manchester, London, all the big cities, they're usually freelancers. Isn't that right, Reese?
Yeah, absolutely. I am myself, and I'm a producer of Queefy, but also somebody who performs at Dawson Superstore, performs at the Glory, the RVT, the South Senior, all these venues. And I second everything you've just said. It's from a monetary place, there is no money. And there's also it almost feels at this point a little bit obvious to say, but everything, my life has just disappeared.
Yeah.
It's just disappeared. And I guess it's not knowing that it will come back or how it will come back, and the impact that has on your mental health, for a lot of queer performers as well, and queer people, my job and my life are intertwined into one in a way that some areas aren't. And my social life, it's a blessing in normal times. My office is always moving, my office work is always changing, but there's a real family feeling, and then that just disappears, and there's no way of preparing or really even quantifying the kind of trauma that has on a whole community of people. So
And I think sometimes people don't realise how little money universal credit is, particularly when some freelancers are used to earning a lot of money, aren't they? If they're performers or DJs or whatever.
I mean,
Exactly.
I was pretty established.
Make it rain.
No, I mean, I did my tax. Maybe this is obnoxious to say, but I did my tax. I think it was 3 years ago. So I did my tax. Basically, I realized that I was starting to make an okay living.
Yes.
And I hadn't even realized, because you're freelance, you live in hand to mouth, actually, even if you are. And then I realized, shit, all that work is gone now. Because you snowball and you develop relationships, and you build up a career, and for of course not just me, but that's just absolutely disappeared. And there's no contingency and no kind of like safety net that's going to come back or come back in the same capacity, and that's very scary. And yeah, universal credit does not
Not pay the bills.
does not
yeah.
cover much.
And yeah, Dan, that's right. I guess you mean, you know, you employ quite a few people in your businesses, and can you tell us anything about the impact on them? And you know, like you say, you felt disempowered as an employer and a community leader. Really, that's, you know, that's the way I see you. I'm from Birmingham, and Superstore is one of the first places I came to. So what's been the impact on your staff?
I mean, something that Reese and Joe spoke about that I don't think maybe everyone realizes the scale of is that the queer scenes are vital ecosystems for people, and they're where you go and build a reputation and a name for yourself as a performer. But it's also, the hustle is real. You know, you get gigs, but then you might also do the door at another club, and then you might work behind the bar at another club.
Yeah.
And it's all part of this sort of journey into sort of queer nightlife, establishing yourself. And I think we spoke very powerfully about how when that's kind of removed for you, it's not only about your how, you know, making a living that's been taken away from you. It's also part of your identity, because when you're performing for a living, when you're creating art, you're putting yourself and part of yourself into the queer scene, and these are really important contributions that
Yeah.
that talk about who we are as queer people.
Yes.
And people will go and see Reese perform at the Glory, and that will resonate with them, and
Yes.
that will they will then embark on their own journey. And these, you know, this is and do you know what, we took it for granted. It was a huge privilege to be a part of that ecosystem, and to see people like Reese and Joe kind of take the reins of these, and you know, of these kind of creative careers, so, and become activists and become performers and become these important voices. And that's kind of, I think that's what's really heartbreaking about it, is and hearing you talk about it like this, because we didn't know how how lucky we were to be around all of that magic and inspiration. And it is really sad to sort of feel like suddenly you're having to start from square one again, back to the drawing board.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, at Superstore, when the pandemic shut our businesses, we started a hardship fund for performers and freelancers who are associated with the venue, because it became really apparent really quickly that the government's people who were employed full time or part time were eligible for the furlough scheme, but so many people have completely fallen through the cracks of that support system.
Yeah.
And I think that's, and I think that's definitely, when Reese talks about trauma, I don't think we're anywhere near coming to terms with the trauma, especially in those creative communities. You know, hustling, hand to mouth, a gig here, a door there, bars here, you know, making it work. I think we're all going to have to sort of come together to support all of those people who essentially have built the queer scene into what it is, and have now been totally disenfranchised.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and it's a really good point. It's way more than a night out, and we do need to help each other to heal through what's been a terrible, terrible year. And we'll pick up on some of the good things, like the hardship fund that have come out of the pandemic, some really encouraging things for the future. But I just wanted to bring Jolliffe in here and just get a sense of, you know, the feeling of a marginalised community within a marginalised community, because you do work with the Black Trans Foundation. Maybe you could just give us an oversight into what that is, and what, if anything, you might be able to tell us about the impact on queer, trans, intersex people of colour during this time with the loss of spaces.
Yeah, I think it is, in some way, the damage that's been caused to both communities and individuals is so great that it's quite difficult to talk about, because I feel like there's so many people who whose like personal and mental healths have been devastated over the
For
last year.
sure, yeah.
Total financial ruin, no security, losing jobs, losing houses. Like, I Mind put out some statistics early on that like we have never in the history of the NHS had the same demand for mental health services.
Wow. And it was bad before. It was hard.
It was
yeah.
terrible before.
Yeah.
Like, it's not
Yeah.
as if they were getting anything done before this.
Yeah.
You know? I remember like my background is in like a lot of like disability activism, as well as working with the trans community, and I'm like very open about like my own mental health histories and stuff. But yeah, you could not find a bed in a psychiatric hospital from June until February. Like,
Incredible.
it couldn't be done. And like, I think that what people forget is that we are already living in an absolute state of emergency with trans health in this country.
We are, yeah.
Like, people have been waiting on like GAC waiting lists for 5 years, still no sign of when they're going to get their first appointment for trans-related healthcare. Like, we are already living in this crisis that on top of this, like, compounded just such like a devastating impact on people's mental health, and how much that like crumbles communities and like our capacity to like support each other and to do community organizing. So yeah, it's been absolutely devastating. And like, I think that Black Trans Foundation kind of was birthed as an idea by our founder Azakul in June, when it became very clear that like the racialized trauma of Black people in this country was being faced in a way that we have never culturally faced it, and that was bringing up such like profound racialized trauma that when you're like Black and grow up here, like a lot of the time, especially if you grow up around white people, like you teach yourself to not talk about it. You teach yourself to not face like how much danger you're in all the time. Like, you just, you know, your children, you learn to bury it. And we, Azakul, great community organizer, they kind of like birthed the idea of BTF to provide a free therapy service for Black trans people in like already oversubscribed NHS waiting lists for therapy. It's often really difficult because of the nature of trans healthcare in the UK. GPs will often refuse to refer you to gender services until you've had like a mental health assessment.
Yes.
And so like trans people are the worst affected under that, like under the dismal mental health care that we have in this country. And so there was just such an acute need that we needed to organize around, you know. Like when we opened the applications for our therapy service, we hit maximum numbers in 3-4 minutes.
Wow, incredible.
The demand is so high for like the work that we're doing. And like the way that I see it is like, you know, in order to strategize as trans activists, we need to be well enough for the fight. Like part of removing our healthcare is like to completely like incapacitate us to resist to like an oppressive system. And like one of the reasons why we decided to focus on like mental health care first is like you've got to resource your community in order to be able to like give those community resources to resist what we're currently under, you know, to be able to fight, to be able to organize, to be able to like come together as a community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we'll put all the links to go and follow the organisations, and I'm sure we'll share more than those represented today. But just tell us, what is your Instagram, right? Is it Twitter and Instagram that you're on?
Yeah, it's at Black Trans Foundation on Instagram and at Black Trans UK on Twitter.
Yeah, so thanks for that. Really appreciate it. Sarah, I just wanted to come to you and the question is that the pandemic has stopped queer people coming together physically. Your day job is a comms manager, and an excellent one at that, and you're a director of the LGBTQ Community Centre, which has been in an inception period for around 4 years, and you could probably just bring people up to speed about where that's been and where we're going next. And the community centre at the moment still doesn't have a physical space, but that doesn't mean that you haven't done anything to support the queer community through the pandemic. So how have you seen people come together over the past 12 months for support, particularly in a year when we've seen a rise in LGBT hate crime, particularly with transphobia rising 81% in 12 months? How's the online space changed? Has it grown to support the community, or does it not work for us?
Absolutely. I think the online space is completely transformed over the past year, especially. I think that being together, what Dan said earlier about the physical being together and having that taken away has completely disempowered so many people. But on the reverse of that, it's also given accessibility to people who are people with disabilities or are neurodivergent and maybe can't come to those spaces. And so the coming together online has been pretty wonderful, to be honest. I've been going to, shout out to things like Queer House Party and Gal Pals and other people who are putting on events on a Friday and a Saturday night. You can sit in your house and have a little bop. God, who says that? Jeez.
You do.
Sorry,
I do too.
that was really cool, guys. But you could. It's about sharing experiences with people and connecting. And I think one thing that is particularly important to note about the community and lockdown is that queer people are in much more danger being locked down than straight people. Of course we don't have access to our support systems. Of course we don't have access to the community that acts as our family and our chosen family, unless we're bubbled. But there are so many people, particularly people who are, locking down with their transphobic family or, homophobic parents, who aren't comfortable being out, or they, are finding themselves in potentially dangerous situations. And I think that that's a really crucial thing to bear in mind. And I think although there is all this, beautiful, wonderful connection happening online, there is also the underlying worry about the community there. One thing that we've been doing from the community centre is a queer skill swap. So
tell us about that.
Yeah, we started doing it last summer, and it was just a kind of effort to, while we're setting up the community centre, it's, we've been working on it since the initial idea stage was in 2017, and then we started kicking off the campaign in 2018 when we raised 100 grand to make it happen.
Incredible.
Thanks. It was
absolutely
lots of effort.
Incredible.
But I think even that really showed pre-pandemic the desire and the need, the desperate need for these queer, sober, daytime spaces, not centered around nightlife, not centered around booze and drugs, that are intergenerational. You don't have to be a certain age to come in. It gives an access to, a whole new generation of queer people to queer people. And also allies, if your kids just come out as trans, you'll be able to swan on down to the centre and get your literature and find out how to support them. And that's really the vision. But yes, we kind of kicked that project off. It's been a little while now, and I've kind of lost my train of thought with where that question was going.
But so I'll help you out. So you started 4 years ago. You raised this 100k, which is an incredible feat. Joe, you were part of the team that raised that money as well, and you've got the gold touch you have, because you did the same with We Exist as well. We'll talk about that in a minute, because that's one of the fantastic successes.
Queen of ideas.
Fantastic successes of lockdown, and it might have appeared to some people that the trail went cold with the community centre, but I guess we're here to say, because I've joined the team as well, that we're very much back involved. We've just been getting our ducks in a row, as they say, and we'll talk in a little while about some of the things that we're going to be doing this year. But I'll just bring in Reese. You were, I just wondered, you were nodding through that, and I just wondered, no, it's not a bad thing. Have you been part of any online performances? Has that helped, your work, and what's the online space done for you?
Yeah, what has it done for me?
Yeah, or not?
Yeah. No, it has. It's. I was just seconding what you said when you're talking about, like, I was just thinking actually about how impressed I am with people who have created these online spaces and how much they have to hold and consider the people who are coming. Yeah, there's an imposter syndrome because I couldn't do it. Do you know what I mean? I'd be like too busy and too scared. But like, it's Queer House Party, for example. I did a talk for, it's not nightlife related, fire me, but
no.
I did a talk for young people at Project Indigo, which was a youth group that I used to go to. They asked me to go and do a drag course, and I was just like,
wicked.
One of the reasons why I won't do stuff for young kids is because I'm scared of what I'm going to say, right? But so when
F-bomb.
I'm just the F-bomb's fine. I'm just like blah blah blah. But anyway, I just don't have. Anyway, let's not pull on that thread. But I was just watching the person who was holding this session in these young people's homes, and just how considerate they were for, and how much you have to really care for everybody's needs. And it was just like, wow, people have really stepped up to the plate, and the resilience of the queer community and the tenacity is amazing. So for me, I've done the old gig or two. I've done Queer House Party quite a bit.
I've heard about this. I don't know it, but I think it's got about 30,000 followers now.
Yeah, they've really, they bloody well have gone for it. But I think of like things like cyber teas and all these amazing things. I've got a undergraduate film degree. I don't know what I've got, but it's high up in the education thing.
Yeah.
They told me that I'd failed, and then it turned out that I hadn't failed. But anyway, I studied film.
Wicked.
Don't look at me like that, you. And so for me, it was quite exciting when it happened. At first, I was like, oh my God, because I was like, I'm not just going to shove some bloody lights up and just stand in front of a camera and do some thing. No shade.
Yeah,
but
no shade. Whatever works for you. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm going to use my film degree, but it's a lot of effort, you know. So but the point is, at the beginning, as a performer, it was actually, there was an element of excitement, and I think a lot of people in that first pandemic, feels like years ago, everybody was online, everybody was, oh, I'm going to do this weekly Instagram tune in, and it was beautiful to see. And I think everyone was scared that everyone was going to forget them because, we're used to being out and being gigging and having shows given, and
that's right.
But that's kind of dissipated because it's a lot of effort to invite people into your home every week and try and do a show.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know if I made a point there at all.
No. So it's had its benefits, but it's also a bit hard work as well. And so that's really, really helpful. Let's move on to some of the successes that we've had in the community. I'm an activist, I'm not embedded in nightlife. I like to go clubbing. Dan gets a bit of my money over the bar. But I'm not involved in the nightlife economy other than that. But I am an activist, and so I want to talk about some of the successes. So Dan, you mentioned that you got a hardship fund going at the very beginning. I also know you've got a Patreon, you've had Virtual Superstore, which is online. So tell us some of the things that you've done to keep the businesses afloat.
Well, I think everyone who's done virtual events will know that they're not going to pay your rent.
No.
And I think the kind of general watchword for the pandemic is it's twice the effort, it's half the fun, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
I think that shout out to Queer House Party because they are the gold standard of online events. Not only because they're brilliant, but because they put accessibility at the very heart of what they do. They have audio descriptors. It's incredibly accessible and they're brilliant.
Fabulous.
And also they're completely fucking radical. But we've done virtual superstore parties, which have been really, really wonderful to see
Super
everyone.
fun.
They're really stupid. But yeah, but that's an important, that's an important part of letting off steam. Yeah, the Patreon is a subscriber based thing that basically allows people to support us to keep the lights on until we can open up properly. We've also on the website, we've been hosting queer stories, and we've been kind of reaching out to all kinds of people to write stories about. We wanted to hear from people whose maybe voices are not heard so much in the kind of what passes for queer online media. So that's been really fun to talk to lots of different people and hear and learn a lot about people's experiences during lockdown.
So does this mean that hopefully if we're good to go on the 21st of June, we'll never see another virtual superstore again?
I mean, I think to what Sarah said, virtual events have provided a really important reminder about some of our failings as physical spaces. And I think when we come out of lockdown in June and July, accessibility is going to be really, really important, more important than it's not been, it's not been the priority that it should have been for many venues. And I think that's something that has to be addressed. And I think the fact is, throughout this whole period, believe it or not, there are some people have done quite well out of lockdown. Some people have got loads of money to spend, and they're not there's a huge disparity between how lockdown has affected people, and it's to do with age. It's to do with obviously loads of other layers of privilege. But I think we're going to have to recognise that when we come out of lockdown, because there are completely sort of oppositional forces at work. There's going to be people who want to hug everyone in the room, and then there's going to be people who are completely fucking traumatized and are trying to deal with being in physical spaces with people. And I think there's a lot of people are coming out of this lockdown, people who are part of our communities, significantly worse than before they went into it. And that's after a decade of austerity. So I think as queer scenes, plural, we have to recognize those people and welcome them into our spaces more effectively and with more open arms than maybe we have done before. And I think that's definitely something that I would like to see as things open up, is us being better at that, especially venues.
Yeah. Does anyone want to comment on that? Anyone got any thoughts on what Dan's saying about accessibility and inviting people in? What do you think?
Absolutely should have another online, regardless. They should have more online stuff. I danced at that queer pride last year. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. So I mean, I've been to every virtual superstore and watching people dancing around the kitchen with a colander on their head in a tutu has been a right laugh.
How did you get that footage of me?
and it has been a laugh. And like when we can look back in future and breathe out and exhale about the pandemic, it's going to be one of my fond memories, actually, because it enabled me to keep in touch. And I was going through a really tricky time last summer, very, very difficult time, to keep in touch with people that I couldn't see. So I think this is right, that there isn't a way for people who can't get into spaces to be able to contribute online.
What does that look like in practice? So, like, Dan, I'm curious to hear like what your thoughts are. Is it about like live streaming shows and like doing it online as well as physical, or is it about like making adjustments to your venue, like installing lifts, like those types of things? Like what do you think's next for Superstore?
I think there's different layers of improvements that need to be made, and I think some of those improvements, frankly, should have been made a long time ago. And those are improvements about how we communicate our accessibility accurately and for people to actually be able to digest and make use of. The second thing we need to do is communicate more effectively to people who feel they've been shut out of queer spaces. The difficult and most expensive thing is making physical changes, but that has to be, that has to be on the agenda at some point, there has to be accessible toilet provision, and there has to be better physical solutions to accessibility. That has to happen. But I think the first stages are, so we're engaging with a number of different organisations to see how we can do better. And the most important thing is reaching people and telling them that we're here, telling them that they're welcome, telling them the information they need to know about how to get in here and how to navigate this space. And I think that's the most important thing, because I think you have to send a very clear signal to people, tell them that they're welcome, and then that goes hand in hand with working with our staff and our management, with our security, to making sure that everyone understands how best to accommodate as many different people as possible. So I think there's a number of different stages to it, and we're speaking to an organisation called Quit Plash tomorrow. We've spoken to Attitude is Everything, engaging with a few different people. But I think that's one of the major challenges, and no, it's not challenges. It's like the goal of opening up this year for queer spaces. Has got to be accessibility in every sense. I don't think, by a lot of spaces are independent and are not necessarily of, and also like Superstore, built in a little corridor. But I think there are some of those improvements will take longer, but the very basic level of human connection, which is the stuff that we're supposed to be doing, we're too late on that, and that needs to be better.
So that's encouraging signs. And before I come on to Joe to talk about We Exist, I saw you nodding there, Jolliffe, and like you say, you're a disability advocate as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been an activist for a while, and one of the places that I started was in like a lot of like disability justice work. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, it's a conversation that hasn't been happening for so long, and like it is often, when people talk about inclusion, like one of the things that is like maybe like least touched upon is like the different kinds of accessibility that you need as a,
For sure.
I mean, there's like so many reasons that like clubs and queer spaces like can't be accessible to people, and that's like really, really hard. And I just like it feels very good, like having kind of like been in like disability justice scenes for a while, to kind of like hear people having this conversation in a very serious way. Like, that feels very like, yeah, it feels like an important place to start,
Yeah, and a positive step forward. Yeah. So, and just picking up on the point there, that the nightlife scene isn't the only scene, and the queer scene. Not everybody finds those spaces accommodating. People sometimes don't want to be around alcohol or drugs, or other things that just come hand in hand with nightlife economies. It's not just typical to queer communities, it's all nightlife economies.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I just wondered, Joe, tell us about the phenomenon that has been We Exist in the last 9 months or so, where it came from the bottom up, and what yourself and Sophie Williams, is it Sophie? Yeah, Sophie, who's the co-founder, what you've managed to achieve. And we're talking about finding a space outside of nightclubs for, particularly in this case, trans people.
Okay. There was quite a few questions there. I got a bit confused. Okay.
Just tell us a bit.
I'm gonna go through it. See what
happens.
Go. So currently, We Exist is led by 5 trans people: me, Sophie, June, and Jolliffe. And we started it in August last year. And then, so we had a pop-up community space in Protein Studios, which is like Shoreditch.
That's right.
Shoreditch. And that ran for 3 weeks. We raised about $4,000
Brilliant.
from that space. And then we thought, so then we had a collaboration with the Koppel Project, which is an arts charity, and we ran a studio space for trans artists for 3 months. We had 40 trans artists in that.
Incredible.
And then more recently, we had a big online fundraiser called Trans Day of Joy, which was with Dalston Superstore and Fringe Fest. And we had, I think it was about 50 trans artists on that lineup.
Yeah, it was a brilliant day.
It was a lot to organise. Shout out to everyone involved. And yeah, we raised 7.5K with that. And I think a lot of the stuff that we're doing at the moment is just, you know, utilising our networks or just using whatever we've got to get things for trans people.
For me, I think that We Exist was the most inspiring initiative for me in 2020 as a trans woman, a visible trans woman, as an activist and a public servant. I think, and I've been out for 10 years in the now, and I think it's been a really, really tough time, and it continues to be a tough time for the trans community. And with legislation, with famous authors talking about us who might want to stick to writing books, and the general sense that there does feel like we're about to get into the throes of a culture war around trans people and our existence. So I just want to say a real huge thank you for We Exist and the work that you've done, because honestly, you've shown that we don't need to sit around all the time and debate and have meetings. You just got off your butts, you did it, you raised money, and you gave the money to trans people. So I think, can we have a little round of applause for We Exist? Yeah. And
You too.
So I just want to start. I'm just conscious of the time, and I want to stay on this positive thread for a minute and think about what's coming up as we come out of this pandemic. What have we got to look forward to? I think we started the session saying that we're on a 4-ish out of 5, so I think there's a good sense of optimism. So I just wanted to ask you, Dan, first. I know Dalston Superstore have started advertising nights on the cautious optimism that we might come out of lockdown in June. And I'm glad to see that you've sold out of a couple already. And I think so many events are selling out, which is a good sign. What's on the horizon for your businesses?
Well, there's this sort of weird, the weird in-betweeny bit in May where which is distanced and all the COVID measures will be in place. So it's been really great to work with great queer partners who are putting on great events and doing things again. I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but the idea of being in a mega rave is both utterly terrifying and I'm desperate to be there, but mostly terrifying.
I know.
I think the idea of planning events, club events, seems like I as someone who does that, haven't quite got my head around that, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I think the cautious bit of cautiously optimistic is in play, and I think we all need to be really, really careful here because we have to just take things one step at a time.
Yeah.
So I think for the moment, I'm looking forward to spaced, safe, vanilla vanilla raving before we kind of go beyond that, because I just think we all just need to be super careful, to be honest.
You can all wear outfits that are like 2 meter distance, like spikes.
2 meters.
We can all just giant Zorb balls. Everyone will just get a big Zorb ball to just roll around in.
Yeah, Zorbing, I like it. I'm personally looking forward to getting back into Superstore to do some work from home Wednesdays. You know, I'm missing bringing the laptops in, and so I can see you smiling anyway. So that means that's you've got some good thoughts about the future, which is great. Sarah, what's on the cards for the community centre? Where are we at?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, like as you said earlier, the past couple of years have been a little bit of a tricky time, especially the past 12 months. But you know, since probably about October, when we recruited you and Chloe, our new trustees, we've really been like on a positive spin.
Yeah.
Is that the phrase?
A lot of energy.
Yeah,
Good energy.
it's been everything is kind of, it's like we've kind of transitioned to the second phase of the project. And you know, things are actually moving forward, which is, you know, a big relief, because it's been a very small team of volunteers who's been working on it for many years. And sometimes when you're, you know, a volunteer, it's hard to know what the right way forward is. And so I'm really chuffed that that's all kind of getting resolved this year. We're literally about to hit send on our charity application, which of course is going to unlock, you know, countless opportunities for funding and things like that. I say countless, that's not true. Deluded, yeah, literally. Maybe one opportunity for funding, who knows? But yeah, like a couple of the, you know, interesting things that we're doing this year. We're going to redo a research project that we did in 2018, because that all kind of seems a little bit redundant now. Like the things that people might need from a community centre have probably changed. Like, you know, there's probably a greater support for mental health services than there were before. Maybe we need double the amount of physical space than we thought we needed so that we can do social distancing. Maybe we need half the amount of space because people are going to want their, you know, services delivered online. We just don't know. So that's one of the big things that we're focusing on this year. We've just recruited our first paid member of staff, which is nuts. Project manager, who's starting in April, which we're really excited about, and that's paid for with the money that we raised in 2018. So that's happening. And then of course we've got a big project in partnership with We Exist on the horizon, which is really exciting.
Super exciting.
I don't really know how much to say or to like hand over, or
I don't know, like I think let's get people to watch this space. And we connected with the community centre that's just in fruition in Brighton as well.
Yeah, they've done amazing work.
They've got big plans there. Just tell us what they've got in store. We've got something to aim for.
Oh God, I mean, I looked at the floor plan and my jaw was on the floor. Like they've done an absolutely amazing job, and they've been working on it for, I think that they said that the initial kind of conversations about this were happening in the noughties. So I mean, this is a long time ago that they were initially starting these conversations, and things are just about coming around now. And I think one of the greatest challenges, no matter what city you're in, is finding space.
Yes.
Like, you know, we've got a floor plan, you know, drawn up for around like a 5,000 square foot space, which in London, in a pre-COVID London, is like impossible to come by.
Yeah.
And now, like, one of the byproducts of the pandemic is like, I mean, it's like actually horrible and quite heartbreaking to think about, but a lot of businesses are vacating venues, some of them in central London, and of course that's what we've been looking for a really long time. And one of the barriers to moving forward as a project is because we haven't found the venue yet. But Brighton have the Ledbury Centre they're going to be occupying a space as part of a library. I think it's about 5,000 or 6,000 square feet, 2 stories. The kind of facilities that they have, it's huge. Good. It's the stuff that they have is the stuff they're planning for. It's still being constructed at the moment. Is incredible. Like they've got 2 radio stations in there. They've got a cinema. They have got a cafe with a servery. So it's pay what you feel like you want to pay what you can afford. Which, you know, the model of community centre is exactly what we had in mind for what we wanted to deliver. So it's like very reassuring to see that is something that they are planning to. And one of you know, they've thought about everything. They've got dressing rooms with like glamour mirrors, so people who aren't out at home, with lockers, so you know, if you're not out at home, you want to leave your, you know, the clothes and your makeup and whatever in a locker, you can leave it there and you don't have to, you know, keep it in your bedroom and like worry about your parents finding out. It's like all of these beautiful things that, you know, maybe people hadn't thought of that a community centre could provide for people.
Yeah, it's what we need.
So yeah, absolutely, like completely hyped about that, and just absolutely burning and desperate to be able to deliver something like that for the community in London too.
And we're going to keep in touch with them, Birmingham, Manchester. We've got stuff going on, right? It's going to be good. I'm really, really excited about the community centre, and we are going to deliver it. I think bricks and mortar might be 2 years away, maybe a little longer, but we know that anyway, and we're going to do a lot
We
of...
were always signed up for a good 5 or 10 year project.
yeah, we know we're in for it. Okay, that's really, really good. And Reese, tell us, what have you got coming up? What are you excited about?
Oh, God. How am I supposed to bloody beat that? Jesus Christ. No, I am trying to get my producing chops going for getting back on the stage and getting people back on the stage.
Yeah.
We actually Queefy lost its venue in East London. I forgot what my own show was. In East London just before the lockdown. So I am basically organising a London-wide tour kind of thing. I'm calling it Queef in the Wind.
Okay, awesome.
So I'm just talking to venues now, and we're thinking of maybe going up to Manchester as well. I don't know if I also do work with Ducky Posh Club, which is a social weekly event for people over 60. So we put on cabaret for over 60-year-olds, and they
That's
come
wicked.
and have it's a really, really fun, and it's like one of my favorite jobs. But obviously, quarantine and lockdown and corona has meant that absolutely can't happen. Ducky's been amazing. We've been calling around and trying to stay connected, but I'm so eager to get back and be doing those shows again and see, because I think the elders community is like, the effect of calling around has been quite something. Either people are picking up the phone like, it's fine, babe, we're fine, we're just I'm not lenders, or you've got somebody and they're telling you some really horrible news,
yeah, for sure.
So I'm really eager to do that. And I think, what was the other thing? I also have an idea that I think we should be kind of championing the work that people have done in quarantine, the online stuff. I think it'll be interesting to, obviously, how does it feel when I don't have to watch the Zoom, but the Zoom is still there in the club, and you've got the performer doing a performance of the performance on the stage. It's like, how do we conceptualize this? How do we really, this time has been a blessing, a curse, but what are we going to do with it? And I think keeping that energy that you guys are so amazingly running with, like keeping that going and not forgetting those conversations as well, and
that's
the experience.
really exciting. I love the older people thing. I wanted to get involved in stuff like that. So yeah, I So I don't think I asked you for Instagram. What is it, Queefy Cabaret, that people follow? What's the best way to get you? Is it Reese's Pieces?
So it's Reese's Pieces, but good luck spelling it. I mean, I'm dyslexic. My mum gave me the Welsh spelling. She didn't want me to have any followers. It's RHYS. Species, I think. Species. Reese's Pieces. RHYS. You put it down here. Put it in the link. Yeah.
That's a job for me. Who's directing this? Yeah. Okay, that's really, really exciting. That's great. And Jolly, what's next for yourself and Black Trans Foundation?
We're really excited. So we launched a fundraiser today for a group of trans organisers in Nairobi, Kenya. It's like a trans refugee organisation where we are, like Black Trans Foundation, raising the funds to get that they're being evicted from the shelter that they're living and organising in. And so we just launched the fundraiser today to raise the funds to get them a new because they are the home of the trans community in Nairobi, and certainly
sure.
The only kind of organising group. And it's the first action of international solidarity that we've done. We're really, really excited to do it and kind of build those links with, as abhorrent, to be clear, things are with trans people in the UK, building that international solidarity is also absolutely essential.
Sure.
Because there isn't, there are so many places where genderqueer people are the most at risk.
Absolutely.
That's just the reality. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, so we're really excited about that. We're really excited about expanding our therapy service. We were kind of like brainstorming setting up a service that is kind of like a bursary for Black trans people that want to train in mental health care, so that we actually, because one of the problems that we had was like we only wanted like Black trans therapists, and once we got all three, we thought, well, you know, and one of the things that we wanted to do is kind of like resource that, so that like if you do like want to have therapy with somebody that understands your experiences,
Yeah.
that like we can like contribute to like making that an accessible experience. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like I'm a musician as well, so I've just been like got like a lot of like stuff that I'm really excited to like gig again and like
Yeah.
perform again and like release stuff, and yeah.
You got any Instagrams you want to put shout out for your music?
Yeah, just at Jolliffe Seville. I want a little down there as well.
Yeah,
Give us
yeah.
all one. Give us all one.
Yeah, we'll sort that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Joe, finally, what's next on the horizon for you and We Exist?
So we've got some plans in place. So we've got 2 quite big exhibitions planned.
Awesome.
We've got a book planned.
No way.
We've got our collaboration.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of things there. So basically, there's a
Busy
lot
all
of
That's a
things
lot.
happening, and so watch this space, all of that. But to be honest, I think what I'm kind of noticing more is, and I feel like you probably feel like the same, is that I feel like there is a lot of trans-led organizations who are speaking up at the moment, and I'm just really excited to see what, how we can create further solidarity between organizations and what we can all do together. Because, fuck the system. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
exactly.
CIS.
Get that on the screen
CIS.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fuck the
yeah,
system.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Merch is available on the We Exist site.
It is,
All
yeah,
proceeds
yeah.
go
I'm
into
not
the
trying to sell merch here.
healthcare fund. I
am,
am
though.
like, yeah. We did a wicked run of t-shirts and they sold out, and there's more out now.
Yeah.
And all the money goes into the healthcare fund.
Mhm.
What's the website? Can you remember? Is it We Exist?
Yeah, it's just weexist.co.uk.
Yes, so go and check it out. So we're going to bring this to a close now. And I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure. I didn't know everybody in the room, only half the people in the room. So I've managed to meet some new contacts. Jolliffe, Reese, thanks very much for coming. And to my mates, Sarah and Joe, and Dan, who's dialing in from Casa Superstore. Thanks so much for giving up your time today. I think this is the start of some better things to come, and we'll put up some links. We'll share some ways of connecting with everybody in the room, and I just think we should all take away from this how we build queer community. If you are an ally, what you can do to be an ally. It's not just a badge, it's not just a hashtag. So who are you going to go and follow on social media? Who are you going to go and read? What are you going to go and watch? Where are you going to go and spend your money? There's loads of ways we can support the community, not just in London, but all around the community and further afield. So with that, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks very much.